So today's topic, as mentioned, is fraud, cyber fraud, and how to protect yourself. It's always important to stay, up to date on what's happening, what the trends are, and today we'll definitely be able to provide that to you. So thank you so much for joining. So let's look at today's agenda. So here's what you can expect for the next hour. We will start off by introducing RBC's purpose, vision, and values, followed by Felipe introducing the RBC Newcomer Specialist team, and then we'll head right into the main event that we're all here for. After, we've also put aside some time for question and answers, and then I'll pass it back over to Keisha for some closing remarks. All right. And so, yeah, I guess just a little about myself before we get started. So as mentioned, my name is Farah Mohammed. I am a banking advisor with the Newcomer Specialist team. So my journey with RBC started back in June of 2019 as a client advisor, and I mainly dealt with day-to-day transactions, balancing at the end of the day, and providing support to neighboring branches. I enjoyed my role very much and joined various groups and committees like digital enablement, employee giving, and diversity and inclusion, one of my personal favorites. And, really with working with RBC has given me so many volunteer opportunities and a way to give back to the community. So next month, we're actually participating in Run for the Kids in hopes to provide support to youth struggling, with mental health. So it is actually open to everyone. So if you have a chance, check it out. We can always post the link in the group here for you. Yeah, so that's just a little about me. So let's move on to RBC. So, when you think about an organization, it's important to know their purpose and vision. So this is something that is meant to inspire and motivate you, and it can only do so if you share the same. So RBC's purpose is helping clients thrive and communities prosper. Our vision is to be amongst the world's most trusted and successful financial institutions. But it's not just about purpose and vision. Like us, an organization must also have values. So even though we're an organization of 86,000 employees, along with Naz, Ria, Felipe, we're all guided by the same set of values, and that's the RBC values. We put clients first. We always earn the right to be our client's first choice. We understand our clients' needs, which help build lasting relationships. We show empathy and care and bring the best of RBC by offering the right advice and solutions. Collaboration, we work together by believing and trusting in teamwork. With the collaboration of our partners, like today in community, we win as one RBC. Accountability, we take ownership and responsibility. Diversity and inclusion, RBC embraces diversity. You can see it right here. We speak up for an inclusion and empower people to grow and achieve more together. And last but definitely not least is integrity. We hold ourselves to the highest of standards to build trust. So now I'd actually like to pass it over to Felipe to introduce himself and the Newcomer Specialist team.
Thank you so much, Farah. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today and partaking in this event. This is a great event to, kind of refresh yourself up on a few things when it comes to fraud, or even better yet, just investing the time in yourself to learn new things. So my name is Felipe Boada. I'm a banking advisor, digital banking advisor here at the RBC Newcomers Meeting team. To speak a little bit about myself, I started with RBC back in May of 2008, where I joined RBC as a part-time client advisor at the Kedia and Ellesmere branch. I started as a client advisor and gained interest in learning more complex transactions, which assisted me in becoming a client advisor expert. From there, I became a central teller who was basically strictly responsible for balancing the branch at the end of every day. And during all that time with RBC as a client advisor and a central teller, I won multiple quarterly awards within my branch location and regional area. And from that, now I'm a banking advisor for the Newcomer Specialist team, who provides financial literacy for the communities of newcomers as well as students. I also have previous experience in property management, which I studied at Humber College, and I also enjoy creating music, and I have performed at the Canadian Music Week. For those who may not know what that is, it's a week in May, where a lot of artists from far wide around the world come to perform in front of a Canadian audience, and you'll meet a lot of up-and-coming artists, actually, which is really great. That's enough about me. Let me introduce to you our RBC Newcomer Specialist team. As you can see here, this is our core team, our East Toronto core team of Newcomer Specialists. You have Naz, who is our Assistant Branch Manager, Ria, Farah, and myself as the Digital Banking Advisors. Even though it's not about the location, because basically you can contact us virtually and reach out to us from basically almost anywhere. So next, I also like to say that it's just not about us, but we won't be able to do this without our community partners like ACCES, who is a key partner to this incredible journey. So we have enhanced this synergy through our internal partners, communities, and clients for a more holistic and organic approach. We focus on putting newcomers and clients at the center of everything that we do. Our goal is to be prepared and proactive at all times for our clients' path. And as of March of 2020, we've taken our branch digitally, where we facilitate all of our events online. So we provide financial literacy, ranging from buying your first home in Canada, buying and building good credit in Canada, buying and getting good credit in Canada, saving and for retirement and fraud prevention, just to name a few. We also provide advice that goes beyond banking and our banking system. So our experts help explore in different fields like HR tips, role discovery, job search, mentoring as well. So with that being said, let's get started on today's event, which is fraud and cyber fraud. So let's talk about what do we mean by the term cyber fraud. So cyber fraud is the crime committed via computer with the intent to corrupt another individual's personal and financial information stored online. Cyber fraud is the most common type of fraud, and individuals and organizations need to be vigilant and protect their information from fraudsters. So we're in an age where the digital realm has increasingly woven into itself, into the fabrics of our personal and professional lives. And many of the technology that we've come and rely on has accelerated faster than regulatory bodies can actually adjust to. And we were already on track to becoming a pretty digital world, but this year and the previous years has accelerated things a lot faster. So this has brought many positives and new opportunities, and Canadians have increasingly relied on the internet to conduct everyday activities such as buying and selling goods, or simply looking for a job. So the question is, who is getting targeted, especially for fraud and cyber fraud? So one of the biggest mistakes we make, it's actually a natural neuroscience one, is thinking that it can happen to me. Well, the phrase or the folks, it reinforces that it's pretty not much if, but when these attacks will happen. Small businesses are actually a big target for cyber criminals and fraudsters. It's not about big companies. In fact, over 90% of security breaches are the result of people making mistakes and getting pulled into a scam or clicking on a malicious link. While we hear about big company data hacks in the news, it's actually the actions that you take as an individual that have the greatest impact on the security of your financial and personal information. Experts say that people, not technology, are responsible for as many as 95% of cyber breaches, often caused by factors like curiosity, sophisticated social engineering, and just plain and simple human error. Now, from January 2014 to December 2016, it's estimated that Canadians have lost over $290 million to fraudsters. Now, I'm not here to scare you with stats like these, although $290 million is a shocking number. I'm here today to talk to you about fraud, help you become informed on what it is, how it happens, and how you can protect yourself so that you don't become a victim. We'll go through different types of fraud, focusing on the most common tactics of today, helping to train you to spot fraud before it even happens. By understanding what fraud looks like, you'll be better able to recognize a suspicious situation, stop a fraudster in their tracks, and react quickly if something does happen. So my goal here, and RBC's goal, is to make sure you are informed and well protected. So let's get started. So what is fraud? A lot of you are probably asking yourself, and we've got a clear understanding of what it is. So fraud is essentially when somebody tricks or deceives you for their own personal or financial gain. Cyber fraud is any crime that is committed with the use of a computer or to online data, and therefore can also happen on or through your mobile phone. In this day and age, fraud has many faces. It can take the form of stealing your identity, gaining access to your bank accounts through stolen cards or passwords, or tricking you into giving away money or information. It's important to also touch on cybersecurity. It is the practice of ensuring the systems that work the way their designers operated or intended them, and are only working the way they have been made or intended to work. Our entire world operates on computers, and with the right software, these computers can do almost anything, from making phone calls to simulating flights, flying an airplane. The role of cybersecurity is to ensure that these machines only do the things we want them to do, and to prevent cyber criminals from using them for malicious purposes. Now, we've got to ask ourselves, how does fraud happen? And fraud can happen in a number of ways. For instance, fraudsters may gain access to your information and accounts. This is often achieved by going through your mail and getting your address and account numbers. Or they may watch you enter your PIN or password when you're doing your banking, or getting their hands on debit cards or simply credit cards. And perhaps most commonly these days, fraudsters will tap into curiosities, fears, and desires to try and trick you into sharing confidential information, whether it's personal or financial. Now, in fact, when it comes to all this, humans are responsible for over 90% of breaches. 90% of security breaches are the result of people making mistakes, and it happens to all of us, to be honest. Getting pulled into a scam or clicking on a malicious link, while we hear about big company data hacks in the news, it's actually the actions that you take as an individual that have the greatest impact on the security of your financial and personal information. And believe it or not, they're always finding ways to make sure they trick you, because there are systems in place that put a stop to this. But the moment they trick you is the moment that they can get your information. Now, even though there are many different types of fraud, we're going to go through we can't go through every type of fraud because it could take a very long time. So what we're going to talk about today are some of the most common types used by criminals today. As you can see on the screen, you'll see that we have 6 types that are most commonly used. I'll be speaking about number 1, password compromise, 2, debit and credit card fraud, and 3, social engineering, things like phishing and spoofing, vishing and smishing. Believe it or not, even though these are funny terms, we do use them because we are in an age where we see a lot of this happen, and these are the terms that we use. And my colleague Farah will be talking about 4 to 6, which is malware. She's going to talk about fake websites and fake apps, identity theft, as well as financial abuse. So tapping into the first one, which is password compromise. And one common way scammers get access to your information or break into your online accounts is by guessing your password. Believe it or not, they have the time to do this. By using multiple computers, making billions of guesses per second, criminals can guess even relatively complicated passwords in a matter of hours. They have systems in place that assist them to do this. So many of us like to use simple, easy to remember passwords such as the word password or the digits 1, 2, 3, 4. Unfortunately, scammers know this, and therefore it's like handing out your house keys and address to strangers. Now, password hacking can also take place by watching you enter your credentials over your shoulder if you're in a public place, catching a glimpse of your PIN when you're at the ATM or a store, or by posing as your bank and tricking you into giving this information away. We'll get into that a bit more in a minute. So continuing with passwords, we all know this one password compromise where we still use the password 1, 2, 3, 4 on our mobile devices, right? Now, passwords are like keys when we use them to protect our accounts, devices, and our information. Understanding how passwords work can significantly improve your personal security. Now, one thing we always ask is you got to make it unique. Each account you have, whether it's email, banking, credit card, etc., think of a password as a key. Now imagine that one key opened everything: car, house, bank account. It would be a disaster if you lost that key. So having different key limits the potential damage that can happen to your personal information or financial information. Here are some of the great tips that we like to share with a lot of our clients, which is basically, number 1, make it unique. Don't reuse passwords. Think of the password as a key like we mentioned earlier. Your password for your banking information should not be the same thing as your password for your Amazon account or even, let's say, your Spotify account for music. They should be completely different. Make it complex. It should be long, contain upper and lowercase letters, numbers, and special characters, which include, in some cases, may include spaces. Manage it carefully. Storing your password securely is critical to protecting your digital life. Use a secure password manager if you can't remember your password. Also, use multi-factor authentication where possible. This requires a 2 or more stage process for logging in and verifying your identity. Attackers will find it very, very difficult and hard to fulfill the second condition, typically because when it comes to the second part of the multi-factor authentication, you're asking more personal questions that only you would know. And number 4, don't forget about physical securities of your devices. Don't leave them in your car unattended or open. Ensure screens are locked, and when you're not working, whether it's a laptop, a desktop, pardon me, or even your mobile device. Now, let's talk about debit and credit card fraud. Debit and credit card fraud happens when someone steals your physical card or your credit card, your physical debit card or credit card, your account numbers, or your personal identification number, which is known as your PIN, and uses it to make a purchase in store, online, or by phone, or to withdraw money from an ATM. A person can steal your credit card and credit card information a number of ways. Number one, it could be by going through your garbage or mailbox to find credit card statements or other banking information. So we always ask clients to get rid of them, use a Sharpie to, black out any personal information, and then shred it. By swiping your credit card through a device that copies the information stored on a magnetic stripe or of your card. Also, by hacking into the computer of companies and stealing credit card information, by installing small devices on payment terminals that record your credit card information, or by asking you to use your credit card on a fake website to make a purchase. Simply, we see that this happens quite often, so you always want to make sure you do your research before purchasing on a site that you've never used before. Now, part of all of this is comes in social engineering. Social engineering is one of the most popular and effective tactics fraudsters use today, and it involves manipulating, influencing, and deceiving a person to agree to a request, usually to release information or take some kind of action that will benefit the fraudster. Whether it's done via email, telephone, text message, or in person, social engineering is a very effective way to gain unauthorized access to information, so your information. And simply, this is how it works. Scammers will pose as a representative of a business or a personal contact in order to prey on your emotions and create a sense of urgency. We see it happen all the time. For instance, they might pose as a representative of RBC and ask you to click on a link to change or confirm your password. Now, keep in mind, banks don't ask for this kind of information and will not ask you to do this. Many of the world's worst and most famous cybersecurity incidents began when someone clicked on a malicious attachment and entered their login information into a fraudulent website. I don't know if a lot of you recall, but there was a number of Hollywood celebrities, including Jennifer Lawrence, that had their iCloud photos hacked and sent out to the world. While it was originally thought that Apple's security system had been compromised, it was actually a social engineering scam. A fraudster has sent these stars an email that appeared to be from Google or Apple, warning them that their accounts might be compromised and asking for their login details. Now, the victims could have had entered their password information, at which point the fraudster was able to download all emails and get access to other files, including photos saved on iCloud. Which leads us to talk about email scams, phishing and spoofing. Phishing and spoofing are two forms of social engineering done over email. Now, phishing scams take advantage of your fears. As scammers will play on your emotions and try to create a sense of urgency, make it seem like it's very urgent, like you need to act on it very, very quick. They'll pose as someone they're not. Typically, it's a business contact, a representative of a company, or even a friend or family member. They'll tell you a scary story about how your bank account is being threatened and how they need you to provide information to confirm the identity of your account as soon as possible. Now, this is how they create a sense of urgency. And spoofing is another key tactic of online scammers. The scam will most often include a fake email address, website, or phone number that the scammer will use to trick you into releasing sensitive or confidential information, like your financial information. They'll lead you to believe that the email is from a friend, family member, or a representative of a legitimate organization. Their main goal is to trick you into giving away personal information like the bank accounts, passwords, or credit card numbers. And you got to be careful when this happens, as when you give that information, you're giving a lot for them to use against you. Now, part of this is, how the process works regarding email messaging and fake websites, which is phishing. So typically, you have the user receives an email or a pop-up. Then it goes to email explaining some urgent situation. Your bank is being compromised. Money has gone missing. Click on this account so you can get in contact with us. Click on this link so you can get in contact with us. Then the user clicks on that link or multiple links if there's any. And then you enter your personal/financial details in with your device. And from that, the fraudster uses the compromised credentials to take over your account, get personal information, and can act and can be detrimental to you because you don't know this is happening in the meantime. So you got to be careful when looking into these emails. Make sure that if something doesn't make sense, or if you get that intuition or that gut feeling inside, that you contact the right representatives like the bank in order to help you with this. Now, typically these types of cyber fraud are conducted at a mass level, where the fraudsters send out mass emails hoping someone does click on a link. So you're not alone. You're not being targeted alone. It's going out to a lot of people in order for them to click on these links, hoping that someone does click on that link. Now, when it comes to phishing, you know, how do you protect your business against phishing? I can't stress enough, it's about knowing who your suppliers and your clients are and being very careful about sharing personal or financial information only with those you trust. And you'll see on the next slide that these are some quick tips that we would like to include. Only download software from a reputable website. Ensure firewalls, anti-malware, and antivirus software are up to date, and scan PCs regularly to make sure everything's clear. Avoid providing personal or financial information through email. Please, please, please take that into consideration, because there's a lot of the times we feel that it's okay, but emails can get intercepted and people can tap into that email with your personal information. So try and have them encrypted if possible. Do not click links, download files, or open attachments from an unknown sender. If you do not know the sender, do not click on these links. You know, do your research prior to clicking on any links or opening emails from an unknown sender. Only provide personal details online if the site is trusted, or over the phone if you initiated the conversation. Again, if you initiated a conversation, you know who you're speaking to, then it's possible that you can provide your personal details, but always be aware that if it's someone that you didn't initiate the conversation with, take precaution before giving out any personal information. And if ever in doubt, call your bank support center or relationship team. They have a lot of information they can provide to you and can guide you to let you know if this is a fraudulent activity. Also, report phishing emails. We have a site, an email account that allows us to understand your emails that you received, which I'm going to provide right now on the chat box, where if you come across any email that you feel unsecure about, you can email them forward that email to phishing@rbc.com, and they can assist you in helping understand if it's a phishing email. Now, when it comes to phone and messaging scams, phishing and smishing, social engineering scams can also take place over the phone or by text message. These scams, like I just said, are known as phishing and smishing. In a phishing scam, criminals will persuade their victims to divulge their personal information or transfer money over the phone. There are several tactics they use to try to get this information from you. One is to use information they already have about you. If they have your name, your address, phone number, bank details, they have the kind of information you would expect a genuine caller to have, like the banks, for example. Next, they convey a sense of urgency. You are made to believe your money is in danger and you have to act very quickly. So fear often leads people into acting without thinking. So you got to stop yourself at that very moment and ask yourself if this makes sense. Don't react quickly. There are things in place where the bank does help you, and the bank does not just send out money to whoever the person is. So always make sure you contact your bank. Then they use a phone spoofing technique where the phone number appears as it's coming from somewhere else. So when you pick up the phone, you already believe the caller because the number is convincing. It looks like a number that possibly RBC does use. So you got to be aware of the situation. And in some cases, the criminals can also hold your telephone line if you do hang up and call back the bank right after. You can be put straight back into the line with the fraudster. Now, one piece of advice I got to give to you is, even though I just said a little earlier that you should call the bank for the information, if you are on the phone with quote unquote, who may be the bank, but it's a fraudster, and you hang up because you realize, hey, this is a fraudster, give yourself some time. Do not call right away. Give yourself 10, 15, 20 minutes. They will not wait that long. And then you can call your bank and have a discussion with the right representative to see if the bank was the ones that gave you a call. And part of all of this, to make it sound very, very super real, they'll create an atmosphere that sounds very authentic. You will likely hear a lot of background noise, so it sounds like it's a call center rather than a person who is in their basement or in a car per se. They either do have a call center or they're just playing sound effects from a CD. So in smishing scams, you receive an urgent text message on your smartphone with a link attached saying that it's from your bank and you need to access in order to update your bank information or other online banking information. And you've got to be very careful with this. So some of phishing examples, as you can see on the next slide, is that sometimes scammers will try to capitalize on something timely, like tax filing season, or perhaps it'll come into form of a more personal note. Or you might fall for a smishing scam if you think you've actually won something, right? So you got to be careful with smishing. Here are some examples right here on the screen. On the next slide, you'll see that RBC alert. It'll say, your client card starting with 4519 has been disabled. Please secure your account below, and there's a link. Now, what a lot of people may not know is that when it comes to RBC, whether you are, a regular client, a staff member, or even CEO of the company, all client card numbers of RBC start with 4519. Now, fraudsters have this kind of information to trick you, to make you think that your accounts are being tampered with or compromised. So that will automatically lead you to believe and scare you, put that fear in you to click on that link. Now, this is not true. We never send text or email for you to click on a link. We actually give you a phone call and tell you to go into the branch. Next, I'm going to show you some more smishing examples. These are some smishing examples that my manager herself have received. You got to be very considerate in regards to what you get. See right here, it says, Nazneen, we attempted to deliver your item. This is something that they know about her personal information already, because it looks like they've managed to track something that she may do, perhaps shopping online, but something that's really obvious, for example, the cryptocurrency. She doesn't deal with that, so she knows that's not for her. So you'll get a lot of text messages or emails that really don't apply to you, but there is always that one email that may seem like it's not harmless, but it is. And they can get your personal information. For example, like the delivery one. Maybe she does do shopping online. Actually, all of us do. So you might want to click on that link to see, hey, this might be the tracking number. Always be aware and make sure that the number or the email that you're receiving it from is from the actual supplier or the website or the store that you purchase things from. I hope this information was very, very useful. I hope you guys learned something new. If not, it was a refresher. Now I'm going to pass it over to my colleague, Farah, to continue with the second part.
All right. Thank you so much, Felipe. And thank you so much for those real life examples. It kind of gives us an idea of what's being circulated and what's around, so we can be aware of what's, we're seeing on our phones or coming through our emails. So let's move on to the next part, which is social media scams. So as social media sites like, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and others have become more and more popular, they've also caught the eyes of criminals. So while you and I might use social media to keep in touch with friends, family, or even colleagues, just share ideas about, maybe someone's looking for a job, or, family photos with members, fraudsters use social media to find and target you for their scams, manipulating you into giving up confidential information, which they can use to steal your money. Now, the most common ways they will do this is through phony quizzes, fake surveys, and false friends. Now, think about it. Has a friend or a friend of a friend ever forwarded you a quiz or game on social media before? Or have you ever received a friend request from someone that you just didn't know? So I'm sure, many of us have had this happen to us, and it can seem like something that's really innocent and harmless. But, even these harmless questions, answers, and accepted friend requests can tell a scammer a lot about you. And here's how. So if you even comment or reply to a quiz or a brain teaser on social media, you're telling others that you're an active user and you could be targeted for other games or surveys to get more information. Now, to be honest, a lot of us play these games or quizzes for fun, or just to pass time. And don't get me wrong, I mean, they can be fun, and I'm not saying not to play any games, but just be aware of, what they're asking you and the type of information that you're sharing. So on our next slide, you'll see some examples of common questions asked that are used to get information from you. So, if you give information such as your birthday, kid's name, first pet, first car, or the street you grew up on, you're giving out information that someone can use to call your predators and pretend to be you. And, those are usually what those security questions are set up as. Now, armed with these little to no details about yourself, they may be able to ace your security questions and open new accounts, apply for loans, or even have access to your savings. Now, if you answer a quiz on social media, scammers can look up your profile information and collect data that you've made public. Now, some people like to have a lot of followers, and if you accept a friend request or other connection requests from someone that you don't know, just keep in mind that you can be opening up all your information, your posts and your network to potential criminals. Not everybody out there wants to be your friend. So you must be wondering, right? Well, how do they do this? So you'll learn a lot about this in our next section called malware. So I'm not sure if you've heard the term before, but once I start talking about it, I'm sure it might ring a bell. So malware is often used in combination with social engineering scams. So Felipe kind of touched on that a little bit earlier. Malware is designed to creep into your computer and design chaos in your systems. Whether it corrupts your files, messes up with your applications, spies on your activity, or copies your data, malware is often a means to an end. It's used as a way in to steal your money or information. So keep in mind, signs that your device might be infected could include decreased computing speed, missing or deleted security software, and more commonly, an increase in your computer freezing or crashing. So malware can be installed by someone physically accessing your device. So maybe just keep in mind, if you're sharing your device with someone, that could be a possibility of how. Also, if you visited malicious sites, websites infected with malware, or if you have not patched or updated your device, that could be another reason. So it's very important to stay up to date and keep our devices with a security on there. So let's think about it, right? What can happen if someone gets your information? So I'm sure we've all seen it done in the movies, and this is called identity theft. And that will bring us right to our next slide. So identity theft happens when someone accesses your personal information, such as your name, date of birth, social insurance number, and uses it to make financial transactions in your name. So this could involve accessing your accounts, opening new credit cards, applying for loans or mortgages, or even writing checks in your name. Now, armed with your social insurance number, mother's maiden name, date of birth, or bank account numbers, a criminal can steal your identity and wreak havoc on your personal data. Thieves can get this information anywhere, such as your mailbox, by your email, over the phone, from statements that you've thrown into the trash, or even from your old computer hard drive, like Felipe had mentioned earlier, through social scams. So just so we're clear, this doesn't happen, just in the movies. Ordinary people like you and I can fall into this trap and not even know it until it's too late. So I'm sure, everyone here may know someone who has gotten scammed before, and it's really not a happy story. Their lives are turned upside down and the stress can be unbearable. So hopefully now, you'll be better prepared in knowing what to look for and, and protect yourself that way. So we've talked about malware and identity theft. Now let's talk about financial abuse, the last one on our list. Perfect. So financial abuse is when your money or property is misused. So often and sadly, it can be by someone who you trust, and seniors unfortunately tend to face the greater risks. So let's say you become ill or injured and need someone to take care of your finances until you get better. You decide to set up a power of attorney. This person now, you're giving them access to do transactions for you. And so, while there are many benefits of having a power of attorney, unfortunately, theft by power of attorney has become a big problem. Financial abuse might start with them buying a little something for themselves, and then gradually it can turn into money missing from your account, or even credit being applied for in your name. So it's very important, to look into this. Now, sometimes it's harder to detect because they've changed maybe your mailing address and you're not receiving the bill statements anymore. So if you need someone to perform banking activities on your behalf, it's a good idea to speak with a banking representative about options other than sharing your PIN. We can help you set up perimeters on what they're allowed and expected to do, along with other options available. And, really banking has come so far over the past years. We recommend signing up for online banking if you haven't done so already. It's a very, convenient tool for financial protection, and it lets you see all your transactions, lines of credit, investment, mortgages, so you can spot anything suspicious right away. And, and obviously, great plus is you're saving paper. And of course, it's password protected. So let's take a look at some additional steps that we can take to protect ourselves. Now, fraudsters can be pretty smart and awfully creative, but you can outsmart them just by doing a few simple things to keep you, your information, and your finances safe. So here are some ways that you can protect yourself against identity theft, when you're at home, at the ATM, or just out and about. So to start, we highly recommend shredding or thoroughly destroying pre-approved credit card applications, bank statements, credit card receipts, bills, and expired credit cards. Remember, these are important documents, so you don't want to have them lying around. It's also a good idea to only carrying around the credit cards you need and never to carry your SIN with you. A further way to protect yourself from fraud is to keep a close eye on them, especially when you're handing them over paying for something. Fortunately, because of chip and PIN technology, this helps protect that kind of fraud if someone attempts to make a purchase requiring those. Another innovation from RBC is the lock your credit card feature. This is an awesome feature. It lets you lock your credit card from your mobile or even through your online banking if you happen to misplace it. If you're not sure you've lost it and can't find it, the lock your credit card feature prevents transactions from going through until you're able to locate it again and turn off that lock. Now, this feature is also works for your debit as well, and it really gives you that peace of mind, especially to those if you've been running errands all day and you really don't know where to start looking for your card. So when you're using your debit or credit card, whether it's at the ATM or in a store, be sure to shield your PIN with your hand or your phone to make sure no one sees what you enter. If you feel crowded, don't be afraid to ask for space. You're protecting yourself, and it's a good habit to practice, whether it's just yourself and the cashier or whether you're with a friend. All right, so covering your PIN, as I mentioned, it's very important. It's one way to protect yourself. But what about online, and how can we protect ourselves there? Well, when it comes to doing anything online, there are ways to protect your information and your money. Whether it's your online banking, a government site, or even your Netflix account, it's a good idea to create a password that's complicated and hard to guess. Remember, your password is a fraudster's gateway to your information. A good rule of thumb is to make sure your password meets these 4 criteria. And I know Felipe touched on it earlier, but we'll just recap here. So make sure it's random. The word password or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, they're not good choices, right? Neither is your pet's name, street address, or your birthday. And these are things, they tell you not to put your password as. It should be long. So think about a song lyric or a quote that you like, and that will make sure it'll be easier for you to remember it that way. And it should be something that's unique. So by using a mixture of like capital, lowercase letters, numbers, and special characters, that way it'll be even tougher to crack. And of course, never use the same password for everything, because once they get that one password, now they have access to everything. Make sure it's secure. So while remembering, a random or lengthy unique password may be a bit challenging for each website, you don't want to write them down or have it out in the open. Find a safe way and a safe spot to store them. And when you're banking online, always be sure to log off when you're done your session and close your browser. Use a trusted computer when logging into online banking. And if you need to use a public computer, never use that one to change your password. Also keep in mind that you want to have your software updated. Software companies routinely improve their security of their software, and it takes steps to fix, your security issues. So always be sure that you're using the latest software on your computer and mobile phone. Now, another way to protect yourself online is to avoid clicking on suspicious links or entering your information on websites that you're not familiar with. So just keep in mind that, you always want to stop and think, trust your gut. And if you receive something out of the blue, that you've never received before, whether it's an email, text like that before, always, just be skeptical about it and question it. Felipe talked about the phishing and phishing scams earlier. Now, and finally, really recognize that no reputable organization will ever ask for you to log in for your login credentials. Not your bank, not the government, Google Tech. They won't contact you and ask you for your password or banking information. So what about some of us that use social media? Well, there is nothing wrong, with using social media. It's a great way to connect, but you want to make sure that you do it safely and responsibly. To stop scammers from taking advantage of you on social media, there's a few steps here. So really connect with the people that you know. Only connect with someone that you trust, because once you do that, all your contacts and valuable information is now shared with them. Don't post anything that you're not comfortable with, or if you had to share with everyone, right? So think about that before you post something on there. And then, of course, be mindful of what you're sharing. Something like a profile, a survey, or a game could be used to collect information about you, and as I mentioned earlier, these games or quizzes, I'm sure don't sound as innocent as they were before. Now we talked about a bit about what you can do to protect yourself, but what about RBC and how can they keep you safe? So protecting your personal, business and financial information and safeguarding you from fraud are among our highest priorities at RBC. So in addition to our stringent privacy policies, we use a wide range of technologies and security mechanisms to ensure safety, confidentiality, and integrity of your information and transactions. We also maintain strict security standards to make sure that your information is protected against unauthorized access and disclosure. Now, plus we have a team dedicated fraud experts working 24/7 to prevent, detect, and investigate fraud. And we also work closely with industry associations, government, and law enforcement to ensure a safe and secure environment for you. Now, the last thing you want to see is your hard-earned money disappear. Our 100% online security guarantees protects your accounts from any authorized transactions. Not to mention, we hold seminars like these where we talk to you about today's fraud trends and tactics so you can better be prepared for yourself and spot fraud before it happens. So keep in mind, staying safe from fraud is a shared responsibility. You play a huge role in your own security, and you're definitely taking the right step by being here today. There is a lot of places that you can stay informed about the latest scams. One source is the RBC cybersecurity site, where we publish the most frequent scams, so you can stay up to date on what's happening. So I'll enter that in the chat for you. And then also, of course, government websites and reliable news sources are a good source as well. So that really brings us, towards the end of our presentation. I know it's a lot of information, crammed in there. We're really trying to give you the most that we can in the time that we're given today. There is a chat box, so feel free at this time to enter your questions in the chat, and we'll be happy to answer them. And of course, our information will be shared, so you're more than welcome to reach out to us and connect with us after the session today. So thank you so much for your time. All right, and I'll just put that site in the chat box for you.
Oh, I already did it for you. Don't worry about that.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. But thanks so much, Farah. We had a lot of interesting information. Hopefully everybody took into consideration what Farah said. I mean, you never know when it comes to these day and age. One thing I do want to say from speaking about this is that one thing you got to keep in mind, everyone, is that, these fraudsters typically don't have a 9-to-5 like we do. They try and work hard, per se, in ways to find ways to take your money, so they have the time to create new ways. Like Farah said, right now we want to open up the floor for any questions. There's no such thing as silly questions. Get informed. You have us right now to ask any questions. This is a safe space to speak about anything, or if anybody would like to share a story, feel free to type it in the chat or let us know if you have any questions. I actually would like to share a little story of my own when it comes to this cyber fraud situation. For those who are here, obviously, we're in this day and age of technology. We have a lot of social media apps, and there's a lot of things that are new to us. Kind of like something called an unboxing. I remember one time I got very excited in regards to a package I got because I ordered something I was really looking forward to. I was able to get it, and to my excitement and not thinking clearly, I managed to go on social media and do a quote-unquote unboxing and shared it online. Because of my excitement, I didn't realize that I had not taken down the shipping label, which had my name, my address, and the company who had shipped it to me. From that little incident alone, all of a sudden I started getting a lot of emails, a lot of FedEx, UPS emails, DHL emails, as well as quote-unquote emails from fake websites saying that the specific item that I liked or the brand was having a major sale. And just from having that little, social media post up for I want to say it was less than half an hour, because I realized after when someone said, hey, by the way, we can see your address on there, I've taken it down, but it was already too late because they had gotten that information and were able to kind of track me down and send me emails right away. So you always want to be careful when it comes to that. It can happen to the best of us, believe it or not, but it's up to us to be educated and make sure that we don't fall under as victims of fraud. I don't know, but if anybody else would like to share a story or have any questions.
Okay. Well, I guess if we don't have any questions, that's okay. You guys are more than welcome to reach out to us after the event if you like, if you want to connect or share something there. I do see one question here now. How to deal with repeated scam calls from the same source. Yeah, so definitely something that's really annoying, right? I'm sure, you know, many of us are get calls and it's like the same number or similar numbers and you're getting that call all the time. It can be very annoying because you think it's an important phone call coming in and then it's not. Yes. So, something that I've done actually is I've actually just saved the number. And so when that number comes in, I already know I'm not answering that call. So I'm not wasting my time, going through a whole spiel on what they're trying to tell me on the phone there. I'm not sure if anyone else here has come up with something to do to help those annoying phone calls, but that's something that I've done.
Yeah, definitely. When it comes to repeated calls, I'll definitely say that majority of the time, because we're in a day and age of technology, and I hardly know anybody that has a landline now. It's always to your cell phone. Every cell phone has the option of blocking numbers. And you could always Google these numbers prior to blocking them if you're not aware if it's an actual financial institution calling you. Believe it or not, Google is a pretty amazing resource because there's people out there that actually post information about this. So there are people that commit fraud and there are people that are trying to stop it as well, So as Google the number, and if you read anything about fraud, block it right away. Best way to stop those numbers. They can't keep calling you. They can keep trying over and over with different numbers, but again, once you start seeing that happen, then you know right away they're trying to get you to talk to somebody or give away information, right? Now, I do see another question here where it says, they would like the definition of cyber fraud that I spoke about out there. I can definitely put that up there. And it says, two, what about your LinkedIn address? Do fraudsters ever use professional information? I have a very complete LinkedIn profile, but it does not have financial information. You know what? Sites like LinkedIn are very, very, again, it's not to say that I don't put anything past any website because, again, they can grab that kind of information. But LinkedIn, you see a lot more professional individuals, and I believe that LinkedIn, the way the way LinkedIn's set up, compared to any of the social media websites, you have to input a lot more information because they want to know who you are. Because remember, you can get in contact with a lot of individuals from around the world in order to make connections. The kind of information that you would put is more so work related, but it's not in full detail what it is. So you are pretty safe. We haven't come across anybody who has had any situation where the information was taken from LinkedIn, but that is I mean, it's only a matter of time to see if these fraudsters try anything with that. So far as I know, any information I've had in LinkedIn hasn't been compromised or anything like that, and hasn't been used against me. So I think you're pretty safe there. I think it comes more to social media, like things like Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Snapchat. Because you're posting pictures of your personal life, what you like doing, your hobbies, things like that. And that's how I got caught. LinkedIn is more professional, so you're more reserved, and you treat your identity a lot different than you would on your personal social media accounts. So that's why I think LinkedIn is not somewhere where they can actually attack you and your personal information as much, even though it's personal in a sense where it's work related, right? And they also said, I have a landline and a magic jack. That's actually really good to have when it comes to that. But when it comes to landlines, even now with the phones, with landline phones, there's actually phones that I believe I have one ourselves, like at our house right now. My father-in-law has a good phone that, believe it or not, the moment he sees a number he doesn't recognize, it gets blocked. You're calling too much, it gets blocked. So we have those kind of landline phones now that you can just block numbers as well.